Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big Four podcast. This is a basketball podcast for you today. We have a lot to cover on the basketball side, but we need to start with this new development in the Michigan State altercation. New developments that Luke has found show that it is very possible that Michigan State coaches were facilitating a bounty gate and trying to injure Blake Corum during the game. What are you guys' reactions to this breaking news?
If I'm being completely honest, I don't really care. I mean, this is why it was just an obvious overreaction by Harbaugh from the beginning, because no one knows what the hell's going on or what happened, and they should just left it on the football field. Maybe next year Harbaugh should just start. Maybe he should hire a hitman to take out Mel Tucker during the game if he really cares that much about it.
This is completely This is laughable. How ridiculous this report was. First of all, Michigan has no leg to stand on when we're talking about purposely injuring other players. When Mike Morris was choking Kenneth Walker at the bottom of the pile and no one said anything. Literally tried to take him out of the game, tried to kill him. He should be in jail. But no, nothing came of that. And now, by the way, do you know every single person in that report that Mr. U Bacon, by the way, is a Bo denier? You know, every single one of those sources was a UM staffer. Sorry, I don't buy it. Oh, wow, only UM staffers. Give me a break. I think the funniest part of that thread was when they were saying, oh, Mel was just, he was relentless against the referees. He was torturing the referees. Are you kidding me? I don't think I've ever seen Mel Tucker get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty against the referees. I've seen Harbaugh do it in the worst times. Remember 2016 against Ohio State? Got a 15-yard penalty.
He violently threw his play sheet at the refs.
Yep, that's right.
And then chucked his headset into the stands. I'm surprised he wasn't aiming for the rest of them. I mean, that ref could have died from a paper cut.
It's just completely laughable. There is no.
This
report has no merit at all. It is a complete and utter Michigan slap job from a Michigan author who has previously said he reported some horribly wrong things, including something about Jim Harbaugh's wife getting abused, which turned out to not be true. So I don't believe a word of this at all. And even if it did happen, it's not nearly as egregious as what Michigan has done in the past, including trashing our locker room and trying to choke out our best player at the bottom of the pile. So I don't want to hear anything at all.
Well, it's also worth noting that there was a lot of trash talk going on during the game, according to this.
Yeah, and that's the other part, because Mel Tucker preaches that his players don't talk trash. So I just don't believe
that's
it.
a lie. He doesn't. He said he does that, and he doesn't.
I cannot believe. Hold on, you could talk, Chris. I got to get this tweet up because it was one of the most hilarious things I've ever read in my life.
You find players getting seriously injured and beaten up funny, Mike? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I do actually, especially for their Michigan players.
Yeah, and this is just an egregious act by Michigan State on all fronts, all parts of this report. I have no reason to believe that this isn't true. He has no. Mr. Bacon has no intentions of releasing false reports. So if this is true, it's just another example of Mel Tucker and the way he runs that program. It's shown over the last couple of weeks. And I really thought this is a really important segment given what we opened with yesterday on the podcast.
Yeah, here it is. Here, this is unbelievable. Where is it? Where is it? Constant complaining to the officials during the second quarter of the game. The line judge comments to me, "This is not what I signed up for." It was so bad. His complaining was so bad that they didn't even throw a flag for it. You know, you could do that, right? And how about this? I've never seen anything like that. Mel Tucker spent the entire game arguing with the officials. He looked very agitated and never accepted the official's explanation. Are you kidding me? Talk about throwing stones from a glass house. I've never seen someone get so agitated at the refs than Jim Harbaugh. Remember the Super Bowl? Oh my God. This is one of the most ridiculous threads I think I've ever seen. Ridiculous. It's shameful this came out. By the way, all Michigan staffers, nobody else was even interviewed. This is a complete
No one else would
propagandist
know.
slap job.
No one else would know. I mean, I think the report is. I don't know any reason why they're just lie on this report. That's not something that would
I don't
happen.
listen. I don't think John lied. I think he was told the information that Michigan wanted him to tell, which is false. Completely. I don't believe this one bit. I cannot believe complaining to the refs. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, you can't.
That is one of the
complain
most
to refs.
insane. That is one of the most insane examples of hypocrisy I have ever seen.
No,
And I don't think, by the way, have you ever seen Mel Tucker after a game blame the refs for anything?
he's always blaming
Never.
them.
Never. Jim Harbaugh, all he does is bitch and complain about the refs. Every game. Every game. I don't want to hear anything about this. Ridiculous.
Mike, who is that? Who is that ESPN reporter that Michigan State and Ohio State fans hate?
Dan Murphy.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't write this.
Yeah. He's I'm surprised he didn't come up to Michigan for the tunnel gate thing. I'm shocked. Him and Paul Levine. Paul Levine would try and throw Nasser in here somehow.
All right, this is a great topic there. Glad we started with that.
Yeah, I'm glad we started with this ridiculous. Next podcast, we're gonna start with something that the MSU chief of propaganda put out.
All right.
He's basically he's a more accredited Michigan chief of propaganda. That
All
guy.
right, let's go to
Complete
Michigan.
joke.
Let's go to basketball, which is what we're here for. We'll go through
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We'll go through our teams and their first weeks. We'll start with Michigan State because they had the most meaningful game of the three teams. They took care of a really tough Northern Arizona team in the first game of the year, and then a close loss to Gonzaga on the aircraft carrier. So what do you guys have to say about Michigan State?
Yeah, I know Mike's been down on Michigan State all off season and doesn't have high hopes for him this year. But I mean that Northern Arizona game obviously doesn't mean much. But I think they put up a good fight against Gonzaga. Some could argue that they even deserve to win that game. I thought Mike is probably going to yell at this, but I thought Matty Sissoko had a decent game. Obviously, Michigan State's biggest problem seemed to be at the free throw line. That seems to be what cost them the game throughout the game. But yeah, at the end of the day, they need to shoot better from three. But I feel like that's been a Michigan State problem for a couple of years now. But I think this is something that they could build off of. And if I'm a Michigan State fan, at least it gives me some hope going into the season, especially with the non-conference schedule they have.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Michigan State. I think they have the chance. They have a chance to be the best team in this league. The league is wide open, and I think they're right there with the Illinois and Purdue, and even Rutgers. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, this is a really impressive performance. Even though they lost, the last play of the game was kind of a clown show, but they led for most of this game. Malik Hall. Solid game for Malik Hall. Solid game for Tyson Walker, Matty Sissoko. And the impact that I know AJ Hogard was 2 for 8 in this game, but the impact that he makes on the game you can't see it on the stat sheet. He is one of the best players in the league, and he's really underrated. I know Mike doesn't like him, but I really like his game. An issue for Michigan State is Joey Hauser. He is awful on both sides of the ball. He is terrible. And I don't think he should be in the starting lineup, to be honest.
He won't be. I doubt he might.
He is.
I am not. I'm not counting on Izzo doing the right thing because he has been obsessed with Joey Hauser for 5 years.
Yeah, he's terrible. But yeah, impressive performance from Michigan State. I think they're one of the best teams in this league, and they'll come out of this tough non-conference schedule much better than Mike's predicted 1-7 or whatever it is.
That's what frustrated me the most. We played a great game, but if you don't win, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean shit. Especially when you play the non-conference schedule that Michigan State plays. They're going to play Kentucky and they're going to get killed because Kentucky's a much better team. Then they're going to play Villanova. Villanova's not good. They should beat Villanova. Although Villanova doesn't have Justin Moore, so who knows? Alabama, who the heck knows? Then after that, who the heck knows? There's just so much uncertainty on the schedule. I'm happy the way we played, but I've never been more angry in a loss in my life, ever. And at any loss, football or basketball. Well, maybe that Arizona State loss a couple years ago was bad. That might have been worse. But this loss was terrible because
You're telling me you were more mad after this than the Syracuse tournament loss?
You're right. No, but I almost smashed my TV after that game on Friday night because those are the games you have to win. If you win that game, if Michigan State wins that game, all of a sudden they can go 0-5 in their next 5 games, and it doesn't mean anything because they got that win. But because you lost, it doesn't mean shit. It goes down. And a win is not a win in college basketball, but every loss counts the same. Every loss counts the same in college basketball. It's about accruing good wins to boast your resume. But a 1 point loss is the same as a 50.
If you're a Power 5 team, it's about getting to 20 wins. Let's be honest.
Okay. Yes. I think defensively, I think we've got a high ceiling, especially at guard play. I think Tyson Walker's a very good defender. Hogarth's turned into a good defender. I like our guard play a lot. That's the only thing I was positive about going into the year. I was very mad at Tyson Walker because he I don't know what is up with him, but he just sometimes just doesn't take shots. He defers way too much. I think he's afraid to shoot, and that he had a couple wide open shots he could have taken, and he did not take. And you just can't do that under pressure. That could have been big. And then Hogarth played very well. I'll admit that was a very good game from him. I know he didn't, score as well, but he played pretty well.
He's easily your best player. It's not even close.
I think, yeah, he is our best player right now. Besides Tyson, Tyson Walker might be better if he takes shots. But I thought Mahdi played very well in the first half. I think he got screwed with BS foul calls in the second half, but it is what it is. He is the only good big man on this team. So teams are going to go after him and try to get him in foul trouble. And because Izzo refused to go into the transfer portal, once he comes out of the game, you got nothing. Absolutely nothing behind him. Jackson Kohler was a -14 in this game. He is unplayable against good teams right now, which is fine. He's a freshman, but he's unplayable. And then the other freshman didn't play because Izzo benched him because he must have missed a meeting or something. So he'll probably be out the whole year because Izzo loves just putting guys in his doghouse. He did that with Nick Ward a couple times. So the 5 situation is a joke. If we had a backup center in this game, we win easily because the reason why we lost this game at the end is because we couldn't get a rebound. We had the lead. We couldn't get a rebound. Yes, we didn't play well on defense, but you go into the break with an 8-point lead, then it balloons to 12, and you choke it away, and you couldn't get a rebound. It was just bad, really bad. And this is one that I think we're going to look back at and regret. I really do. I think we're going to regret this loss, especially because I don't think Gonzaga is very good. In fact, they're worse than Grambling because Grambling beat Colorado, Colorado beat Tennessee, and Tennessee beat Gonzaga. That means Grambling is better than Gonzaga.
Great point.
That means Grambling is better than Michigan State too. So, complete joke. This was a horrible loss. And Tuesday, I don't want to say it's a must win, but I think in these two games, Gonzaga, Kentucky, I think Gonzaga is the easier team right now. I think Kentucky is loaded. I know if Sheway doesn't play, maybe not, but that's going to be a really tough game.
All right. Let's go to Michigan. Michigan beating Purdue Fort Wayne soundly in the first night of the year, and then squeaking by, and I mean that in the strongest way, squeaking by Eastern Michigan at the Little Caesars Arena the other night. So what's the reaction to Michigan's first two games?
I don't take much out of these games for Michigan, mainly because I think for the most part we kind of understand what Michigan's going to be. I think everyone knows they're going to probably be a top 4 or 5 team in the Big Ten. And these are just games that to work on stuff, and that as long as you win them, they don't really matter. They help your win total get up there. I thought, what's his face's kid, the coach's kid there. I thought he looked decent in one of the games. He looked really good.
Yeah, he was good against Fort Wayne.
Yeah,
he was not good.
He's a freshman. You're gonna have growing pains. I think Michigan is probably, I would say they're ranked 23rd right now, 22nd.
They shouldn't be anywhere near the rankings.
I think by the end of the year they'll probably be a top 15 team in the country, but they'll be one of these top 15 teams like Ohio State's been the past couple of years, where they can win a game or two at a tournament, but you have no faith in them make a run or anything like that.
Purdue, Fort Wayne, that was fine.
The big question, Chris, I will say the one big question I think for Michigan is more the depth.
It's the depth after one player. It's not the depth after at the starting.
You have 4 guys playing pretty much 30 minutes a game against 2 group of 5 non-power 5.
Yeah, but it might as well be me out there outside of Dickinson. These guys, Fort Wayne, fine, they played well. Fort Wayne sucks, whatever. This game was a complete and utter disgrace. I will give some credit to Eastern Michigan. Amoni Bates and Noah Farrakhan were making some ridiculous shots, but my God, let's go here defensively. Bufkin, not a great defender. Jet Howard is a terrible defender. Dickinson obviously has his issues on defense. Offensively, they get bailed out in this game because Terrence Williams has 18 points out of nowhere. Jet Howard was a complete joke in this game. Bufkin was pretty much a non-factor. Jalen Llewellyn was not good. He needs to be more aggressive. I think it's similar to what Tyson Walker was struggling with last year. He needs to be way more aggressive. He's already better than Devontae Jones, but he needs to be way more aggressive. Off the bench, they literally have nobody. Joey Baker is atrocious. McDaniel is the worst player in the Big Ten. I know he's a freshman, but he is the worst player in the Big Ten. Terrace Reed is atrocious. The free throw shooting is atrocious. And outside of Hunter Dickinson, this team is awful. And I at this point, after what I just saw from Jet Howard on both sides of the ball, he should be removed from the starting lineup. His brother should start over him. At least when his brother comes in, he plays defense and he makes a smart play. He's not out of control. So his brother should start over him. Jet Howard should be benched. Michigan should play with those 5 and even consider taking everybody off the court and just leaving Dickinson out there because he's the only competent player on this team. So I expect Michigan to probably lose to Pittsburgh this week. They'll lose to the loser of ECU and Arizona. I don't think they're going to be very good at all. They'll probably win 6-ish conference games. I was down on them coming into the year, maybe a 500 conference team, but this really solidified it. This is a bad basketball team, and I'm not looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, that was not an ideal game at all, but it was a tough crowd. A lot of Amoni Bates fans there.
Yeah, there were more Eastern Michigan fans there than Michigan fans.
No, there were more Amoni Bates fans. I don't think there's a single Eastern Michigan fan there. Played well. I mean, I don't know. You guys laughed at me when I said he was going to put up 30 against Michigan in the green and white, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm extremely concerned about this team's defense. Really, really concerned. We know Dickinson doesn't play defense. We know Bufkin doesn't play defense. The coach's son doesn't play defense. Huge concern, especially, later on. They can coast with the schedule they have for a couple weeks, but once they start playing Kentucky and North Carolina, it gets a little more concerning. And really, when you look at their schedule, those are really the games. Those are the games where you can pad your resume. I know a lot of people are skeptical about how good Virginia is, so I don't know how good a win at home against Virginia is going to end up being, but
Well, they're not going to beat
could
them.
be a decent win. Jackson State, wow, unbelievable. Great game there. But yeah, they got time to figure this out because they don't have a tough schedule right now.
Well, Mike.
Pittsburgh's a bad team. They should beat them.
Well, in that game, no matter what happens in that game, we're going to play either VCU or Arizona State. So it's either going to be a Frankie Collins revenge game or a Brandon Johns and Zeb Jackson revenge game. We are guaranteed.
Oh, that's great.
Whoever it is.
Is that why Jawan made sure he was in that tournament?
Yeah.
To get that. Yeah. But the great thing about Michigan is they got, against most teams, they got the best player on the court. So with all their other issues, they can just give it to Dickinson and he can get them out of trouble. At least that's what it is right now. That's what the team looks like right now. So it's an issue, but they got time to figure it out. But it's not looking great at all for Michigan.
Yeah, they're bad.
They'll be fine. The Big Ten's down overall this year.
They are so bad, and they are so lucky. If they didn't have Hunter Dickinson, they'd be the worst team in the Big Ten.
But they do have Hunter Dickinson.
They'd be worse than Nebraska. They'd be worse than Northwestern. It's atrocious. All right. Ohio State beat two terrible teams. I don't remember exactly who they played, but anything to take out of this?
Listen, the thing to take out of it is that we're a younger team. We handled business against two teams that we should have handily beaten. I thought the freshmen looked really good. I think the construction of this roster is a lot better than what it has been in the past. We no longer have these weak guards that can't handle the ball, like Jamari Wheeler, Michi Johnson. And then who was the year before that was C.J. Walker, Musa Jallo.
C.J. Jackson.
What was that?
C.J. Jackson, the year before C.J. Walker.
Yep, C.J. Jackson, DJ Carton,
Jesus,
Dwayne Washington. Like, no, we haven't had guards that have been able to, bigger guards that can withstand Big Ten play. I mean, all these guards that we've had have just get pushed off the ball. I like Sean McNeil in the sense that he can actually play defense. So it's unlike Justin Arns, he can score and then actually play defense. So he's not a liability when he can't shoot. Bryce Sensabaugh, the freshman Bryce Sensabaugh has been fantastic. And I'm not talking about, I mean, he's averaging 16 points a game. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about just the way he looks on the court. Like, these freshmen look college and Big Ten ready. This is a team. We have a tough non-conference schedule. We might struggle at the beginning of the year, but I'm telling you, they can definitely make a run in the Big Ten tournament, and probably they should be making the Sweet 16 at the end of the year.
They should be worrying about winning one game of the Big Ten tournament.
They should be worried about making the tournament.
They should worry about making the Big Ten tournament.
Come Big Ten tournament time, this is going to be a team that can make a run.
Absolutely not. Listen, I'm not going to take anything out of their 2 wins over these horrid teams that they played.
Horrid. Charleston Southern is a contender every year for the Big South.
Yeah, they're the second best team in their own city, but they're solid.
But yeah,
they said on the broadcast, it was the funniest thing. I think I sent the text you guys literally within 5 seconds, the guy said, he said this was a great test for Ohio State or something like that. Like, this is always a team competing to win the Big South. And then 5 seconds later, it goes, this team was picked dead last in the preseason conference poll.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take anything out of these games, but I stand by my statement last week. This roster sucks, and Ohio State is going to have a long year.
No, I don't think the roster sucks. The problem for Chris Holtman is he's recruiting well, but he's not recruiting at the levels that Thad Matta was recruiting at. And I think he's got a solid team, but
This
you
year,
can
no,
coach
this
him up.
this recruiting class that are freshmen this year is the best one he's ever had. And the problem he's had is either he is identifying talent because he gets these high ranked guys and they either stink or they leave. So he's got to figure out a way. His identification of talent has to be a little better. I mean, he obviously got EJ Liddell and what's his face that now on the Spurs and left back Malachi Branham, but he's had too many guys that either don't turn out or they just leave.
Yeah, I think they're a decent team. I think Holtman's gonna coach him up, especially early in the year. That's what he does. And they got some young guys, but they also got some veterans. So, you want to mix in the young guys, but if they're having a tough time, you just put Likely back in or McNeil, put Zed Key back in.
Just as
It's
soon
gonna be an
Big
interest.
Ten player
It's
of the
gonna be
year.
interesting. I don't think this team is gonna be as good as last year, but we'll see. We'll see. They're gonna be a tournament team. They're gonna be a 7 seed. That's like Chris Holtman's floor right now at Ohio State. But we'll see if they can get any better than that.
All right. We'll take a look around the league here. Some notable scores from the week. Nebraska with a really, really convincing win over Maine. Turning some heads there. Rutgers scoring over 70 points in their wins so far. That was surprising. Minnesota with a nice 1-point win against Western Michigan. That was a good win.
Yeah, but it wasn't, Western Michigan hit a buzzer beater to make it 1, so it was more like a 4-point win.
Oh, okay.
Very good win.
Wisconsin with a win over Stanford in a 60-50 game. That's a classic Wisconsin game. Yeah, those are some notable scores. Anything to take out of any scores this week?
Nope, I don't. Other than the Michigan State Gonzaga game, I don't think there was a big game for the conference. And I think pretty much everyone won the games they're supposed to win. So
And I think the sneakiest game in the conference that Monday was Winthrop at Penn State, but Penn State blew them out. I'm actually really like this Penn State team. I think they got a ton of talent on the wings, ton of talent at the guards. Obviously they're going to struggle to get rebounds. They're going to struggle down low, but I think they could play 5-out basketball and maybe push for a tournament bid. I wouldn't be shocked. I think Mike is a great coach. I think he's assembled a very good team. But other games, not a whole lot you can take out of them. Besides Rutgers putting up like you said, over 70 points in the first 2 games. That's surprising. And just something to monitor because they don't play anybody until December.
Well, and they did it against the second weekend team in UMass Lowell.
Yeah, that is true. Well, they do play at Temple. That's going to be a really, really tough game. Central Connecticut, Rider, at Miami, and the Big Ten ACC Challenge. And then Indiana and Ohio State. Those are 2 tough teams in the early conference slate. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, that's about it.
the big games for the conference are this week.
Yeah. I'll start by saying it was an impressive performance from Wisconsin and Tyler Wall for Big Ten Player of the Year. Like I said last week, it was a good start for him. 17 points, 5 rebounds, good game. Also, I'm officially changing my conference prediction for the Big Ten, and I'm going to say Rutgers is going to win this league. All right.
After 2 games.
Yep. Let's take a look at some notable upsets around the country.
I just want to point this out. Hold on. I want to point this out. How about Iowa scheduling 2 HBCUs in a row? I mean, what are we doing with the scheduling?
All right.
Don't they do that every year?
No. Yes, and it's ridiculous because people, oh, Iowa wins 112-71. Oh, wow, they're an unbelievable team. No, they scheduled the worst team in the entirety of Division One. I guess it's better than scheduling Division Two or Division Three teams, but I mean, and to be fair, they play a pretty tough schedule this year. Pretty tough non-conference schedule, but still, it's ridiculous.
Okay. Notable upsets around the country. Villanova losing at Temple.
Yeah, it's a
without-
rivalry game though.
Without their best
And,
player. That is to be noted as
The
well.
Philadelphia 5 rivalry game.
Oregon with a good loss to UC Irvine. And Tennessee today losing at home to Colorado. What do we
That was
take
pathetic.
anything- What?
None of these early games really matter too much. We see it every year. Teams, highly ranked teams, or Power 5 teams, Power 6 teams lose to teams that they supposedly shouldn't lose to, but it doesn't mean anything.
I mean, Oregon got blasted. They weren't even in the game.
Did
They
they do
weren't
that
even
last
close
year?
to being in the game.
UC Irvine's not a bad team.
Didn't they do that last year? Didn't they get blown out by like UC Riverside?
Yeah, they did something like that last year. Yeah, Altman's kind of lost the plot there. I don't know what's going on up there. They don't have a lot.
It's
They don't
their
have very
court
good
being
players.
camouflaged. They can't see their team.
They're expecting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. They're expecting Quincy Guerrier and Folly Dante to be great players.
They have Will Richardson.
Yeah, well, he's been there for 8 years and he hasn't done anything in 8 years. So
They got blown
and
out
then
by
Tennessee,
BYU last
that
year.
was-
They lost by
Lost by
32
40.
points. Yeah, they lost by 32 to BYU.
telling you. Here's what I'm going to tell. I'm telling you that playing Gonzaga in the not the non-conference, playing Gonzaga in the preseason was probably the worst thing Tennessee could do, because now their best win all year is going to be that Gonzaga game in the preseason, because that was a horrible loss to Colorado, who lost to Grambling, like I said earlier this week, which is a horrible loss, obviously. Just terrible. And then how about Louisville? 0-2, 2 losses, 2 good teams, Bellarmine
Oh
and
my
Wright
God.
State, but
I almost
Not-
just
not
shit
good.
myself. I was looking at Oregon's schedule from last year, and their last game said they lost to number 1 seeded A&M, and I was like, I thought I missed something, but it was just because it was the NIT.
yeah. And then look at Louisville's schedule.
Louisville
Okay,
sucks.
they play App State. They play App State at home on Tuesday, but then they go and they play Arkansas, Maryland, Miami, Florida State, Western Kentucky's never easy. This thing could get ugly. And then obviously they got Kentucky in December. This thing could get pretty ugly. Watch out.
Yeah, I mean, I just like to point out that I said Colorado was one of my sleeper teams last week, so that was
Yeah, they lost to Grambling.
that's a big win for them today.
I don't think the win against Tennessee offsets that loss. I don't think it does. Not even close. Not even remotely close.
But as we all three of us also said, Tennessee peaked before the season started, and it showed here. So yeah, good win for Colorado. All right, pick a game.
Well, Mike kind of already touched on it, but I was going to talk about Louisville and losing to Bellarmine by 67-66. Now, to be fair, Bellarmine's a decent team, but this is their second year D1, and Louisville. You just can't be losing to teams like this. It just really shows how much Louisville sucks, and the Chris Mack curse is what it is. And not only do they lose to Bellarmine, then they turn around and lose by 1 point to Wright State. So Louisville might not win a game all year.
Yeah,
If they don't win a game
how
all
about
year, they should be kicked out of the ACC.
how about Stonehill getting their first win against a Division One team? They went to Army and they won. That's a big win. Get that first win. They had
Against a team who's not even legally allowed to have a player over 6'5".
Yeah, well, that team was 11-point favorites. against Stonehill, so that was an impressive win. And they played Quinnipiac tough. Couldn't get it done, but the new team in Division One. We saw it with Merrimack. They're usually pretty good. I wonder how good of a team Stonehill's going to be. I mean, I don't know how good they were in Division Two.
No, it
but,
depends on the team, though.
Yeah. That's true. But Bellarmine came up and was really good, and Tarleton
Yeah,
came
but
up
that's
and was
because they
pretty
also
good
dominate
too.
their D2 conference.
It's true. Cal Baptist, same thing. St. Thomas came up and they were decent last year. So
Yeah, I'll go. I'm going to head north, as I usually do, to Bangor with a statement. A statement win from the University of Maine the other night. A 90-45 win over the mighty University of Maine Fort Kent Bengals.
Who also had to forfeit their next game against Bryant because they didn't have enough players.
Yeah. The announcers were talking about how nobody wanted to play Bryant because of their huge win over Thomas. That was interesting. I could have talked about that game too. That was a good performance by Thomas. But yeah, Maine has found something, and they're playing BC tomorrow, who has struggled. I'm very excited to pick that game. But I think they found something in Jede Jusapatis, who transferred from Georgia Southern. And he's averaging 17.5 points per game right now, played a great game against Nebraska. And, we have guys last year that played a lot, like LaShawn Duhart and Byron Ireland, that aren't seeing on the floor right now a lot. And it's because Maine has really brought in some good players. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. All right.
Also good win for South Carolina over Clemson. That's an upset. Clemson, my God.
Well, that's Michi Johnson's new team.
Okay.
Clemson is?
What?
Clemson is or South Carolina?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Also, did you guys see the classic Providence win against Rider?
I heard about it. Yes.
Yeah, well, they should have lost, but the guy slipped for Rider at the end of the game.
Yeah.
That was a classic Providence win.
Was it at
Luke-
Providence? Because didn't they have to cancel that game a couple years ago because the ice hockey, the ice arena or the hockey floor below started condensating?
That sounds about right. It was at Providence, yeah.
Yeah, probably the same thing happened.
Great game for Michi Johnson.
Yeah,
3 points, 5
28 minutes
rebounds,
a game and 4 points or something.
1 for 8 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3.
What team is he on?
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah, he's averaging like 28 points a game, and he's only scoring 4 points a game.
Yeah, he starts for him, which probably isn't a great sign, if we're honest.
Not a good sign.
All right. We have the Gavitt games beginning this week.
Oh boy.
Yeah, these Gavitt games are Mickey Mouse. They don't even count. Neither Ohio State or Michigan are playing in them.
Some big games. We will pick these later, but I'll read you off the matchups, and you can give me a general sense of what you think is going to happen. So Butler is playing at Penn State, Iowa at Seton Hall, DePaul at Minnesota, Nebraska at St. John's, Marquette at Purdue, Indiana at Xavier, Northwestern at Georgetown. What a game that is. And Villanova at Michigan State.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to the first 2 days, the Monday and Tuesday games. If the Big East can keep it close or even have the lead after those first 4 games, I think they have a really good shot to win it. But if the Big Ten probably has it tied or 3-1 or 4-1, I think they'll end up running away with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I made this mistake in the past where I've overvalued the Big Ten and the Gavitt games because they're clearly the better conference.
Well,
I'm not so sure about anymore, but the Big East just takes this more seriously. It's like SEC in bowl games; they just don't care. The Big Ten doesn't care about the Gavitt games at all. So you would expect the Big Ten to do pretty well, but there are some intriguing matchups here. Really.
I think the matchups lean towards the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think DePaul, Minnesota is pretty evenly matched.
But
Penn
it's at
State,
Minnesota.
Butler, That's going to be an interesting game.
At Penn State.
Butler's a very different team. Yeah. Okay. Northwestern. That's the best game.
That's a great
Northwestern
game.
at Georgetown. Unbelievable. You would expect Purdue to have the advantage in that Marquette game, but
And it's at Purdue.
Shaka will have his team ready. Iowa Seton Hall. Yeah, you would expect Iowa to be better at this point, considering that Seton Hall lost to BC in a scrimmage. And then, yeah, I don't know about Nebraska, but you expect Michigan State
St.
to be better
John's.
than
St.
Villanova,
John's is
but-
going to beat them by about 30 points.
Yeah, it's generous.
But here's what's going to happen. Here's what I'm concerned might happen with MSU, though. Where we could lose a heartbreaker to Kentucky on Tuesday and then not show up on Friday and get blown out. That would be a complete disaster, starting 1-3. And then, yeah, Indiana at Xavier. That's a very interesting game. The students will be ready for that game. That'll be a huge game for them. And what's his name? Sean Miller. But, nobody really cares. Let's be honest. Nobody cares about the Gavitt games. It's basically just another game for everybody. No one actually keeps score in this.
I think these are very even. I think it'll end up being very even in terms of the games and the score and everything. But as Luke said, these are a little bit Mickey Mouse. So look at the teams that are missing here. Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois, Creighton, Providence, and UConn.
Yeah, but that's just how they did it.
I know. I mean, it's not
For the first 3 years of the Gavitt game, or first either 3 or 4 years, Michigan State was not in it, and now they're in it like the final 4 or 5 years of the contract, and then teams like Michigan who've already been in it a bunch aren't in it. That's just how it
I
works.
just don't understand why they don't play 10 games. Like, I know the Big East has 11 teams now.
Yeah.
But they should just play 10 games. Have all the Big East teams playing them. Like how they did the Big Ten ACC, where one team sits out from the ACC and they rotate it every year.
Because how is Jawan gonna play the winner of Zeb Jackson and
How's Iowa
Frankie
going
Collins?
to be able to
How's
play
that-
their 3 HBCU teams every year?
It's a great
All
point.
Let's get to the picks. The standings after week 1, I am in first place. Luke is 1
We
game
gotta do
back.
double-digit
Mike is
dog
3
of the
games
week.
back. Except there's no lines in any games. So.
We'll make up lines.
Oh, okay. All right.
I got Kentucky plus 14.5 against Michigan State.
Let's start with the showdown tomorrow in a Chestnut
I'll
Hill.
take BC. I'll take BC plus 30 against Maine, so I'll get 60 wins if they win.
The showdown tomorrow in Chestnut Hill. We have the University of Maine at BC.
And I'll take BC. Close.
I think this might be another field storming, just like last game for BC. This is a big rivalry game. Maine's coming off a great win, and BC's got some injuries. I think this is going to be a tight game. It's going to come down to the final 5 minutes, and I think BC is going to have to I think they're going to have to hit a buzzer beater from 3/4 court to get this one done.
That's always your go-to. I'm going to pick Maine. I think Maine has shown a lot of signs the first few weeks here. BC has shown some signs of weakness, and I think Maine's going to win the game. All right, DePaul at Minnesota.
Are we picking Camp Horitzburg at Bellarmine?
We are not.
How about Florida National at Bethune-Cookman?
I had Fort Kent at Bryant on here, but then they forfeited.
How about Virginia Wesleyan at Old Dominion?
All right, DePaul at Minnesota.
Minnesota. I like Ben Johnson.
Oh man, this is a tough one. Minnesota, they got some decent players, but I'm not so sure. I think this is a long-term rebuild here. I'm gonna go with DePaul with the upset here.
I'm going to take Minnesota. They were one of my sleeper teams coming into the year. I think they'll win.
Are we picking Johnson and Wales, Rhode Island at Boston University?
No, that's not on here. What a game. Butler at Penn State.
I'll take Penn State. I think Butler's coach is very good.
Well, how about Manny Bates? 20 points in his first game. That was someone that Tom decided he didn't want. So 20 points and 5 blocks. No, we don't need him. But to be honest, I think I'm going to take Xavier in this game. I'm going to take Butler in this game because I think they've got experience. And I like Penn State also, but I think it'll be a tough matchup for him. I'm going to take the road team in sleepy Bryce Johnson Arena, or heck it's called, Bryce Jordan Center.
Did you guys see this team? I can't remember who it was, but they played some women's college men's basketball team.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was like Mississippi Women's College is who they played, and it was their men's basketball team.
I'm going to also take Butler here. I just think they're a better team, and there's no home court advantage for Penn State. All right, Kentucky versus Michigan State.
I'm going to take Michigan State because what's-his-face is out.
This is going to be another heartbreaking loss. I'm going to take Kentucky.
Is he? He's not playing, Sheboy?
No, no one said he wasn't playing. He hasn't
I
played
thought Sheboy
so
was
far.
out for a month.
I don't know. I thought he was day to day, but maybe not.
I'll take Kentucky.
Yeah, here it is. Troy played Mississippi Women's College in a men's basketball game.
Okay, Northwestern at Georgetown.
Northwestern. I have no faith in Patrick Ewing anymore. Is Chris Collins
I'm rolling the
still
dice. I'm
coaching at
taking
Northwestern?
Georgetown.
I'm actually, man, this is a tough one.
You can't trust Northwestern.
I'm
either.
taking Northwestern. I can't pick Georgetown.
Come on, they beat somebody pretty bad. They beat like Wisconsin Green Bay by 30 today. That's a big win.
Duke versus Kansas.
Duke.
Yeah, Duke. No Bill Self. That makes a huge difference.
I also take Duke. Dayton at UNLV.
I'll take Dayton.
I'll take Dayton.
I'm going to go with UNLV. Michigan.
Why?
versus-
Because they played well against Michigan last year.
Well, that's part of
Do
it.
you realize Dayton's over 100 spots higher in the Ken Pom than UNLV?
Yeah, but I was looking at BPI earlier and they had it at 50-50. So
All right.
Because UNLV is known for their great home court advantage.
there they are. Okay. Michigan at Pittsburgh versus Pittsburgh.
I'm going to take Pitt in the upset.
I'm gonna take Michigan.
It's my double-digit dog of the week.
I'm gonna take Michigan. Iowa at Seton Hall.
I thought you were gonna say Iowa at Charleston Southern or something. Iowa at where are they playing? Seton Hall?
Yeah.
No, Maryland Eastern
Yeah,
Shore.
Iowa.
I'm gonna take Seton Hall. They have a great home court advantage. I think
No,
they're
they
a fine
don't.
team this year. Eastern Illinois at Ohio State.
Ohio State.
I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo and Tony Romo in Eastern Illinois with the
All right.
upset.
Okay.
That's my double-digit dog also when that line comes out.
Gonzaga at Texas.
Gonzaga.
Texas. Gonzaga sucks.
I'm gonna take Gonzaga. Colorado versus UMass.
Colorado.
Colorado.
Close game. Nebraska
Yeah.
at St. John's.
St. John's.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever take Nebraska ever again after what they did against Maine. The fact they didn't cover that. I'm taking St. John's.
Yeah, so this is gonna be a humiliating game. I'm gonna take St. John's. LaSalle versus Wake Forest.
Wake Forest.
How about Fran Dunphy? Great coach at LaSalle. You
Is Wake Forest any good this year? No, they suck.
Dunphy's a great Big Five coach. This is his third Big Five school he's coached at. Penn and Temple were the other two. I'm gonna go with LaSalle with the upset here.
Listen, like he knows Philly.
Yeah, he does. Penn State should have hired him.
I'm going to take Wake Forest. Okay. Temple versus Rutgers.
Rutgers.
Yeah, Rutgers.
How about UMass Lowell being higher than UMass in the Ken Pom?
Our second weekend team. Rutgers.
It's a big. Do those two teams play? Because that's a big rivalry. UMass Lowell.
Indiana at Xavier.
Indiana, even though I'm not a believer in them.
Indiana.
Yeah, this is my lock of the week. I'm taking Xavier.
They do play Mike December 9th.
Oh, good.
Villanova at Michigan State.
Chris, this is the classic mistake you always make: is picking teams you hate to lose, but just because they're playing. It has nothing to do with the matchup. And
It does
you're
have
just
to do
picking-
with the matchup. I honestly think with all of my heart that Xavier is a better basketball team than Indiana.
just like Texas was the better football team than TCU this past week.
Well, that was ridiculous. But Xavier should be in the rankings. Indiana should not. Simple as that. Xavier. Villanova
What
at
was the
Michigan State.
Michigan State. I think they win just because they're at home.
I'm taking Villanova.
Michigan State. Virginia versus Baylor.
Oh God, Virginia.
What?
Baylor.
Baylor.
Where's-
Illinois.
is the game at Virginia? Where's the game?
It's a neutral site.
Oh, then yes, definitely Virginia.
All right. Illinois versus UCLA.
UCLA.
Yeah, I don't trust Illinois early in the year. I'll take UCLA.
UCLA as well for me. St. Louis versus Maryland.
Maryland, I think.
St. Louis.
I'm going to go Maryland. All right. Great game here. Miami versus Providence.
Jesus Christ, which Miami?
Miami of Florida.
Okay, then I'll go with Providence.
If it was Miami, Ohio, I might roll with the Red Hawks. But Miami, Florida, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. John Ruiz putting that money in, getting the K-State mediocre guard, making a big difference for Miami early in the year. I'll take them.
I'm going to take Providence. They'll win by 1. Ohio at Michigan.
Michigan.
Michigan close.
Michigan. Kentucky at Gonzaga.
Kentucky. Is it at Gonzaga or
Kentucky's
is it
way
some neutral
better.
site game?
At Gonzaga.
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky is just way better. They got talent everywhere. They got Chris's favorite player, CJ Frederick. He's back. This is going to be a really good Kentucky team.
I'm taking Gonzaga. Last game, Houston at Oregon.
Houston.
This game shouldn't even be on here. Are you kidding me? Houston is going to absolutely destroy Oregon. It's not even going to be close.
Well, this is what the game Oregon wins. This is what they always do. They will win the big game, and they're going to win this game. Oregon.
Are we not going to pick the Maui or is that next week?
That's not this week.
I'm pumped for the Maui.
Yeah, we got to, before every day of Thanksgiving week, we got to have a podcast just to do the picks for that day.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, that's got to happen.
Any final thoughts?
We need you to run the
You
football
know-
podcast so we can get it down by an hour and a half.
Yeah.
No, listen. Well, football's a big deal. Basketball, no one cares about. Luke's been in charge of the hockey podcast, and we haven't had a single one yet. So
Yeah, it's been a lot
I'm not-
shorter.
that's all I have to say.
No, the hockey podcast. We've been calling it the Big Two. It's been me and Alex.
Yeah, Alex has been running the solo field hockey podcast for the last couple months.
Yeah, as Alex is a Canadian, he's been on the hockey podcast with me an awful lot.
All right.
Well, Chris, I have a question for you. When are we starting the Division III baseball podcast?
Oh yeah,
in
we'll
New
fire,
England?
we'll fire that up for like February.
Actually, I don't know. It might be a conflict of interest to have you. I'll have to get someone. Me and Nick will do it.
I'll recuse myself
We'll
from
have.
any conversations about the NESCAC.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah,
be like
just like-
you'll be like Kirk Herbstreit. You just won't be able to pick any NESCAC games when we
Yeah.
pick them.
Yeah, just like how I never pick any of the Bucks games.
Yes, that's right. All right. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back at the end of the week for football.
I'll make it an extra long episode.
Yeah, perfect.
Good, I have nothing else to do.
Perfect.